30s inland to the low 40s on the coast. Tuesday, partly sunny and quite cool, high 54 to 58. For Wednesday, times of clouds and sunshine, high 62 to 66. From the Florida Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Joe Lundberg.
All right, 7 minutes after 11 o'clock. It turned out to be a pretty nice-looking day, didn't it? I guess it did. All right, today is, of course, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s day, and we have some events happening in town. Over at the Martin Luther King Recreation Complex, there is an event called A Day in the Park, A Day of Unity. It began about an hour ago or so, and it runs until 2 p.m. So if you were part of that march this morning, probably in the frigid cold, you were probably happy to get... Well, I don't know if it probably wasn't any warmer over there because that's an outdoor event, right?
Right, exactly. It's all outdoors. A lot of vendors and historical.
So anyway,
speakers.
if you can get over there, it's happening right now. It's a day of celebration of the life and legacy of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. The community comes together with songs, dances, poetry, prayers, music, and speeches, and it's happening right now downtown. Not downtown, but I mean on the Martin Luther King Recreation Complex, which is 1510 Northwest Martin Luther King Jr. Avenue.
That's right.
And the banks are closed today, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
So we have here something called the 10 Things That We Can All Learn from Martin Luther King Jr.
Okay.
I thought I would share this with you.
Nice.
Sometimes things don't always go as planned. That's one thing we can learn. Mm-hmm. Malcolm X was not thrilled about the 1963 March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom.
Yeah.
He actually called it the farce on Washington. Organizers wound up agreeing with a presidential request, and the tone of the event was less forceful than organizers originally intended. Critics needed not worry, as the event was the biggest protest to come to Washington to date, and protesters were front and center for Martin Luther King Jr.'s I Have a Dream speech, delivered right on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial and burned into the world's memory ever since. So there you go. Some things don't always go as planned. One thing we can learn from Dr. King.
Okay.
Another thing we can learn is that passion is paramount. Passion is paramount. Here's a quote from Martin Luther King Jr. I submit to you that if a man hasn't discovered something that he will die for, he isn't fit to live.
Oh, there you go.
Passion is paramount.
Like that.
Dr. King believed in justice, equality, philanthropy, nonviolent protest. He was a preacher, a scholar, and a revolutionary. He was a husband, a father, a friend, and a leader. He was a brilliant orator, a Nobel Peace Prize winner, and his life was cruelly snuffed out way before his time. It was his passion that set him apart, and his passion that continues to do so today, even right here in Ocala. Mm-hmm. How about that?
I know. It's wonderful.
Another thing we learned from the life and writings of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was that we're all in this together. Absolutely, we're all in this together.
Sure.
It's not about any one of us. There's no way. I can't sit here and tell you that I do this all on my own. First of all, I don't do it all on my own. There's a lot of help around me. But even if I was sitting here by myself and I put all these radio shows together all by myself, guess what? I didn't build this microphone. I didn't build this studio, right? I didn't invent the radio technology, and everything I'm using to talk to you as far as education came from teachers who helped me along the way, learn how to read, learn how to present and all that stuff. So we are all in this together, and it is way bigger than we ever realized. If you think about all the people that have contributed to you in the course of your life,
oh, sure.
You'll probably first think of your parents, and then maybe your teachers, but there might be one or two people that you just passing, that said something to you, or maybe you read something by that person.
Right.
Right? They all contributed to you.
Exactly.
I'm always grateful for the guy who invented the bed.
Yeah, that is an important part of life. You got to have a comfortable place to really sleep.
Looking at this thing the other day, and it was showing how life in the old days wasn't necessarily so good. And one of the things was furniture, 100 years ago was horrible. Well, maybe 150 years ago. It was horrible.
Yeah.
It was just wood.
Yeah.
There wasn't any cushions or.
No. They did try some kind of padding on there, though.
Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. I can never be what I ought to be until you are what you ought to be. Mm-hmm. This is the interrelated structure of reality. That all was a quote from Martin Luther King Jr. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. I can never be what I ought to be until you are what you ought to be. This is the interrelated structure of reality. That's pretty cool.
Oh, that's cool. Cool.
Another thing we learned to just reemphasize that it's not all about us. Martin Luther King Jr. is quoted as saying, "An individual has not started living until he can rise above the narrow confines of his individualistic concerns to the broader concerns of all humanity."
Oh, nice.
An individual has not started living until he can rise above the narrow confines of his individualistic concerns to the broader concerns of all humanity. So when you look at the candidates running for office, I'm not going to be political here, but if you look at all of them, whether it's presidential or any other office, that's what I always look for. I always look for the person who seems to know that it's not all about you. It's not all about your legacy. It's not all about that. It's about what you can do for others.
Exactly.
In that very amazing position of president or even county commissioner. What can you do for this community?
Exactly.
You know? The idea that a person would consider their actions in relation to how those actions impact the world, that's a philosophy that we'd all could stand to use to learn a little from. Mm-hmm. Another quote from Martin Luther King Jr.'s quote, "We may have all come on different ships, but we're all in the same boat now." That's a cool quote. That's a cool quote.
I like that.
It is Martin Luther King Jr.'s, the day we celebrate his birth. His birthday was actually Friday, right? 15th?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So we'll take a little break and continue with the things we can learn from the life of Martin Luther King Jr. when we come back. You're listening to The Source, WOCA.
The weather is brought to you by myfwc.com. Safe boating is no accident. On this Monday, mostly sunny but cooler than recent days with a high of 58 to 62. Clear and rather cold Monday night with lows ranging from the mid-30s inland to the low 40s on the coast. Tuesday, partly sunny and quite cool, high 54 to 58. For Wednesday, times of clouds and sunshine, high 62 to 66. From the Florida Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Joe Lundberg.
Hey folks, this would be a great week to visit the Camellia Show Spectacular at Bob Wine's Camellias. First off, the camellias are in full bloom. Hundreds of trees, thousands of bursting blooms, and a huge rainbow of color. Secondly, Bob has stepped up with some truly fabulous buys all over this huge 5-acre yard and garden superstore. Check the ad for specials like these. Buy one, get one on drift roses and foxtail ferns. Buy one tree, any tree, at Bob Wine's already super low price and get a second tree for half price. And how about this deal on camellias? Bob Wine's has sun and shade-loving heirloom camellias starting as low as $14.99. Larger sizes are available with hundreds to choose from. Citrus trees 50% off, and that means prices start as low as $39.99. Don't wait. Come to the Camellia Show Spectacular and get your share of the bargains this week at Bob Wine's Camellia Gardens, Southeast 38th Street, Ocala, daily till 4, Saturdays till 2. We'll see you there.
Looking to put your money to work? Florida Credit Union has 3 CD specials. 12 months for 1.05% APY, 24 months for 1.50% APY, and 36 months for 1.75% APY each with a $10,000 minimum. Federally insured by the NCUA. APY equals annual percentage yield. These rates effective through February 28, 2016, subject to change at any time. Visit one of Florida Credit Union's convenient locations today or their website at flcu.org.
Cookies, 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 cookies. We go
When you
cookie
want something
eating.
special and fun for any occasion, get cookies. That's right. The Great American Cookie Company in the Paddock Mall, Ocala will make a delicious, fun-filled delight just for you. You might notice that I said fun and delicious more than once. That's because I can't say it enough. The next time you're at the mall, be sure and stop by or call 352-237-2557 to place your order.
Cookies, cookies,
Yum.
cookies, cookies. We go cookie eating cookies.
The Great American Cookie Company.
One of the most common questions those nearing retirement are asking: will I outlive my money? Retirement questions like these and many more will be answered every Saturday morning at 9 a.m. on Planning for a Better and Safer Retirement with hosts Francois and Julian Cozenet. Francois and Julian will help you put your retirement puzzle together. Catch Planning for a Better and Safer Retirement Saturdays at 9 a.m. on Ocala's News Talk, The Source 96.3 FM and 1370 AM.
All right. 18 minutes after 11 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in. Boy, it's a nice day. What is the temperature out there right now? Let me see if I have it on here
It
somewhere.
looks nice.
It does look nice. Let's see. Last time I checked in, it was 38 degrees. Now it's 51 degrees.
Okay.
51 degrees. But it's going to stay cool all day, right? And then tomorrow morning it's going to be cold again, so it's going to be another one of those. It is the day we remember the life and contributions of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. We're talking about the things we have all learned from the man. So let me continue. And by the way, just to recap, if you want to go to the celebration, it's down at the Martin Luther King Recreation Complex at 1510 Northwest Martin Luther King Jr. Avenue. It started at 10, so it's been going for an hour and 18 minutes already, and then it'll wrap up at 2. But it says here there is songs, dancing, poetry, prayers, music, and speeches all happening down there right now.
Yep.
Another thing we have learned from Dr. King, you have to be ready to stand by your ideals. You sure do.
Yes.
When young Claudette Colvin defied the Jim Crow laws and kept her seat on the bus, Martin Luther King Jr. was part of the investigation. When Rosa Parks was arrested for also refusing to move, King led the Montgomery bus boycott, which lasted for over a year. Over the duration of the campaign, not only was King's house bombed, he was also arrested. But because of that campaign, the United States District Court ruled to end racial segregation in Montgomery, Alabama buses, a small step or a milestone in the civil rights movement. Big step, small step,
Huge.
big step.
Huge step.
Small if you consider, if you just end segregation on the buses, but it was a big step because it was ending segregation in some place. And that's, I guess, where it started. I guess what you would credit for the start. So think about that. I mean, did he stand by his ideals? Oh my gosh, can you imagine? How many of us would have said, "Oh, they bombed the house. Never mind. Forget the boycott. This is crazy. They bombed my house." But he didn't. He stuck by his ideals.
Well, no, good for him because I'd stick by my ideals.
I would have moved out. I would have said, "Forget this. I'm moving out of here. I'm moving someplace friendlier." If they didn't like me,
Yeah.
I would have a hard time with that.
Yeah, in a different neighborhood, I'd still stick by my ideals and do the
Oh, I would.
work.
Yeah, I would have moved someplace
But
friendlier.
I'd move to a different place. yeah.
1963? Is that
Sure.
what it was?
I think so.
I would have. Oh yeah. I would have moved to Long Island. It was nice on Long Island.
Yeah.
I would move to the Bronx. All right. Let's see. Violence is not the answer is another thing we learned from Dr. King. Here's a quote from him. "We who engage in nonviolent direct action are not the creators of tension. We merely bring to the surface the hidden tension that is already alive." He was a student of Howard Thurman, who helped found the first racially and culturally integrated church in the United States. Howard Thurman headed up Christian missions all over the world and had the chance to meet Mahatma Gandhi, who commented that American black men might have the chance to make nonviolence a more common practice in the world. Because of his readings of Thurman's work, Dr. King was keen to meet Gandhi and traveled to India in 1959. He became convinced that justice and racial equality would be achieved through the use of nonviolent resistance.
Okay.
Think about it. Think
course.
about how that unfolded and manifested itself to the world we live in today.
Exactly.
Another thing we learned from Dr. King is that love is, in fact, the answer. Love is the answer. Dr. King's quote that supports that, and of course you can look around and you want to think about your own life too. You know, of how it really does make a difference. Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. That's his quote. Yeah, there is really, truly no such thing as darkness. Darkness doesn't exist.
No.
Darkness is the absence of light. Light is what exists. Darkness is the absence of it,
Exactly.
right? Which means, well, hate does exist.
Sure it does.
Hate does exist.
Hate
So you
exists.
can't really compare hate to darkness, but
No.
but hate is the absence of love. I have a little bit of a hard time with that theory right there, that philosophy. I don't know that I could cause somebody to stop hating simply by me loving.
No. No, that's impossible.
I can chase out my own hate with love. Maybe that's the way I look at this.
Yeah, but you can't, like, ISIS and stuff, they hate terribly, and people that are trying to, get them to change, they're not changing, so it's not working.
Now, the next thing we can learn from the life and work of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., pay attention, stand up and do something. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Change does not roll in on the wheels of inevitability, but comes through continuous struggle, he wrote. And so we must straighten our backs and work for our freedom. A man can't ride you unless your back is bent. Stand up and do something. I like that.
Exactly.
Dr. King was dedicated to racial equality. He was also heavily invested in fighting poverty, both on American soil and abroad. He founded the Poor People's Campaign in 1968 and charged the American government with the task of not only rebuilding cities, but changing the whole system of economics to repair the flaws of the system that perpetuate poverty. Unfortunately, we still have plenty of poverty.
Yep.
I think what happens is that greedy people continually have their way and change things. Look at the city of Detroit.
Oh, sure. And also, too, the government, gives a lot of handouts, and the people that are getting them get kind of lazy, and they don't want to do anything, too. My opinion. They don't want to
Pay
work.
attention, stand up and do something. The next thing that we learned from Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. is be yourself. Unless you play bass, then be a bass player.
That's right.
I got that from Jerome Robinson.
I know. I saw that. I thought that was cool.
Human salvation lies in the hands of the creatively maladjusted. Human salvation lies in the hands of the creatively maladjusted.
Oh, I like that.
That's his quote. Not so sure that I get it, but Martin Luther King Jr. believed that each of us is special. I do agree with that. Each of us is here for a purpose. I do agree with that. And that the main purpose for all of us is to make the world a better place. I do agree with that. Although I don't think that we all have the mission, the task of global. I think sometimes our task is right here in our own home, in our own world, in our own town. Everybody who does a radio show doesn't do a radio show nationally. We don't do a national show.
Yeah. We're local.
But ours, this is our audience. This is our town. This is where we speak to when we're on the air. This is where we play music to when we go out and play music.
That's right.
With some exceptions.
Yeah.
Once in a while we go to Oviedo.
Exactly.
It says here, no matter what color you are, what religion you are, what you look like, what you sound like, and no matter where you're from, you belong here. Yeah. And you're right, Robin. There are people who really don't grasp this at all.
That's right. They
In this
just want to
world.
be taken care of, and they don't want to work.
I was speaking about the ISIS people.
Oh, I see. ISIS. Yes,
They
exactly.
don't agree that it doesn't matter what you believe. They absolutely insist that you believe what they believe.
Exactly.
And speaking of believing, the number one thing, we were talking about this with the pastor earlier, Pastor Easton. You have to have faith. You have to believe. We were talking about Mother Teresa, the story from Mother Teresa, how she had what one of the nuns who, I guess you would say, worked for her, but worked with her, came to her for advice. They didn't have enough food to feed the children in the orphanage, and so she said, "Well, pray to Jesus." And the nun was a little bit taken aback by that, thinking, "Well, hold on, is that practical? I mean, we need to feed them today.
Right,
Don't we need
exactly.
to make a few phone calls or something?" And instead, she just followed her order, and she just simply prayed, simply had faith. And that same day, I think within that hour, a man came to the door to tell the church that they had an overabundance of food. Somebody had over-ordered, and could the church possibly use all of this food?
Yeah.
And right under the wire, just in the nick of time, the food was delivered so that those children could eat.
That's wonderful.
That's an amazing story. So have faith and believe. That's probably the biggest message you're going to get from any man of faith, any woman of faith, any person of faith. And that was, of course, one of the things that Dr. King left us with, was to believe.
Yep.
I believe that he believed that he had accomplished his mission. The speech just the day before he was assassinated really reveals something profound about him that we didn't even think about until after he was gone.
That's right.
I mean, he said he had seen the mountaintop, right? He had been there. So
Exactly.
Martin Luther King Jr. was a man of faith. He respected men and women of faith that were of faiths different than his. The main point is that he believed. Not only did he believe, but he fought to the very death for what he believed in. And the final quote that I have from Dr. King is this: faith is taking the first step even when you don't see the whole staircase. There you go. That's beautiful.
That's right.
Faith is taking the first step even when you don't see the whole staircase. We will move forward now, and just every once in a while we have to take a day and remember contributions of the different people who have made our world the world it is. The other day we walked through, last week it was, we walked through the old Silver Springs, and part of that land now that is the Silver Springs State Park is also what used to be Paradise Park.
Yep.
Paradise Park, is that what they called it?
Yes.
Back in the day when we used to have whites and blacks separated, even the theme parks,
Exactly.
as primitive as they were, we still had theme parks, and right here in Ocala we had two parks, one for those who were white and those who were black.
Exactly.
All right, we will take a little break and be right back. You're listening to WOC. Got a fun game with Joe.
Yeah.
It is diner jargon, diner slang. We'll be right back.
Fox News Radio, I'm Pat O'Neill.